Venite a Udine, vi divertirete. Paris Film Festival dal 25 aprile al 3 maggio. 一定有好的生活。
Well, you can imagine that an Australian filmmaker based in Brisbane trying to dig continuously in the Philippines to find a forgotten story. It really was a story that had been covered by so many years worth of detritus, cultural detritus. That was difficult in itself. I mean, I could scrape the money together from my video store to do 1-2 week visit to the Philippines, and I might be able to find 1 or 2 interview subjects, you know, out of the 30 or so that we ended up interviewing. Each trip would provide a new piece in the puzzle, which may have even contradicted the information that we got before. It was such a painstaking process, very much a detective story, to try and piece together over the 7 years this detailed portrait, or as detailed as we could possibly get, of a forgotten pop culture sensation. Then at the same time, money was an issue because, you know, I'm not a funded filmmaker. I was a video shop owner who was going to the Philippines with a 3-chip mini DV camera, running around blindly trying to find something like a detective or like an investigative journalist on a hunt for a story which I wasn't quite sure I would ever be able to piece together. And then at one point the film was sold to a broadcaster in Australia. They took the film, they changed it. It then mutated into Machete Maidens Unleashed, which was released in 2010. I was demoted to associate producer. I then had to claw the rights to the WENG story back again after the film had done its circuit. And eventually in late 2012, with Imelda Marcos in the can and the belief that we now had the story as detailed as we could possibly get it, we went to crowdfunding and did a very successful Kickstarter campaign, $35,000 to finish post-production and also do a final shoot. On that final shoot, whoa, all this other crazy stuff came up about Weng believing that he was, the living incarnation of Santo Niño, this kind of stuff. Yeah, I really had no idea that the film would ever be finished. And the fact that I'm sitting in Udine, now finally sharing it with an audience that has never experienced the madness of a Weng film before, this is incredibly gratifying to me. It's really quite strange that in a series of Far East film festivals that we've been programmed in, we seem to be, not the dark horse, but the white horse. We're very much, a mutant creature unto ourselves, not quite Australian, not quite Filipino, definitely not quite Asian. But the film does speak so much about the culture of the Philippines. Not just the culture, but it also tells a very intimate Filipino story, a story that resonates with its Filipino audience. So that we can't help but be taken seriously as a film about the Philippines. Well, it started off with an obsession in general of B films, horror films, drive-in movies, psychotronic cinema. It started from a very early age, from when I was 5 watching Jaws. I was not allowed to watch Jaws, but I saw it on a local drive-in screen in Oman, of all places, through a set of binoculars. And I think that the act of seeing something that you are not supposed to see, or that you are somehow privileged to catch a glimpse of, that definitely became part of this obsession with seeking out old, forgotten, unusual, eccentric films. And then once I became conscious of an entire B cinema of the Philippines, that started me off on a 20-year obsessive journey, which only became more obsessive when I saw Weng's film For Your Height Only. That film just completely, I say it in the film, that film changed cinema for me overnight. And I then had raised the bar so high that I then had to find films that matched the level of insanity of Weng's For Your Height Only. And only in the Philippines would you find another film that will match the craziness of Weng. You've hit the nail on the head when you say that it's a journey. The film reflects my journey from enthusiast of 2'9" karate kicking James Bond films of the Philippines to discovering the most intimate details of the life of its star. And the film is very deliberately constructed as a combination of personal journey and detective novel. So that you start with a very silly and absurd image of a karate kicking James Bond, 2'9" from the Philippines. The same way that I discovered that image and was just completely blown away by the strangeness, the surrealness of that image. And then as you start to dig, or as I start to dig, and as you join me on the dig, the image then starts taking on more meaning, and the personal details as they are revealed in the style of a detective novel, as I discovered them, then start to reveal a very human portrait of someone who was an exploitation star and was also exploited. And I think that joy of discovery, and I think the strangeness of its journey is exactly why that film works. To not just an audience of pre-programmed B-film freaks such as yourself, but also to a much wider audience who are discovering connections between history, religion, politics, culture, and this little figure, this 2'9" figure that seems to be at the middle of everything, who straddles, the poorest of the slums in Baclaran and the palace of the Marcoses, the beaches of Cannes, for the 1982 Cannes International Film Festival, and then ultimately in the neighborhood that he grew up in and the house where he was born, and then finally, his last resting place. I always describe the film as a series of ever-decreasing circles. Yeah. That you go from the broadest of details and the silliest of images at the beginning, and then it starts taking on, an ever-decreasing series of circles until you get to the most intimate circle, and that is, the life and death of someone, of a person, and you have, through that journey of discovery, come to the details of someone's life that you can connect with on a very deep level. We're taking the film to Cannes Film Market in around 12 days' time, and we will be with our distributor Monster Pictures from Melbourne, selling the film territory by territory, format by format. Right at the moment, our Australian distributor is also our sales agent, so Australia is sewn up, but the rest of the world is fair game. I would love to come back for an Italian premiere, and in fact, one interview that was very special to me that I wasn't able to use in the final cut was Bruno Mattei. Okay. Who was in Manila in February 2007 shooting what would end up being his final film, Zombies the Beginning. And he made, I think about 14 films in the Philippines. Some good, some great, some not so. But Bruno passed away, I think maybe 6-7 weeks after the interview, and it was incredibly sad for me to, but very gratifying for me to be able to say to Bruno, I really dig your films. You know, on the set, he looked at me with suspicion and he said, my movies are shit. Why would you like my films? I said, well, Bruno, they may be shit. I said, but there's always a moment in a Bruno film, you know, that is so unique, so over the top, so jaw-droppingly bizarre, that I call it the Bruno moment. And I can sit through any of your films just waiting for that Bruno moment. And he was so happy after that. Oh, what man. And it turned a grumpy filmmaker into, you know, a fairly happy chap for the rest of that afternoon. One of the reasons why I'm so happy that this film has premiered in Europe at Udine is the fact that long before my obsession with Filipino genre film was my obsession with Italian genre cinema. And, you know, I don't just watch Filipino films. I watch everything, you know, and particularly Italian stuff, you know. Like you said, this is the land of Mario Bava, Riccardo Freda. You know, we could go on for years with a short list. Romano Scavolini, you know. Some of my favorite filmmakers are Italian, and some of those guys made films in the Philippines as well. Ruggero Deodato.
Yeah.
Fernando De Leo, you know, those guys were all doing their time in the Philippine trenches as well.